Hello, and welcome to this week's Movie Math, where, wow, Tom Cruise has not only proven that movie stars still exist in Hollywood, but he's leveled them up to be able to compete with franchises. And just when we thought movie stars were on their way out. What a save! Although we'll see if anyone else can replicate Tom Cruise's success. Let's discuss! Because to my surprise, earlier this weekend, I was seeing all these headlines in the trades about Top Gun Maverick, already Tom Cruise's highest grossing film of all time, with a 2 in front of it. I was like, that can't be right. But it is. Because sure enough, domestically, the highest a Mission Impossible movie has gotten is just $220. Can you believe that? Relying heavily on overseas box office to get close to $800 million overall, which those films have done, although they've never crossed $800 million. And yet, 92 movies have made over $300 million domestic, not adjusting for inflation. We're not adjusting for inflation here. Hollywood doesn't do that because no new movies would really ever come close to the classics. That's why they don't do that. The headlines would not be in their favor. But anyway, outside of Titanic, the highest Leonardo DiCaprio has gotten domestic is $292 with Inception. Denzel Washington, just $131.1 with American Gangster. Will Smith, outside of franchise work, the highest he's gotten is just $256 with I Am Legend. Sandra Bullock, only up to $274 with Gravity. Oh my God! Only Tom Hanks has broken $300 million thanks to Forrest Gump. And fascinatingly, Mr. Johnny Depp, who I think even though it's franchise work, I think he created the modern franchise with both Disney's Pirates and their live-action adaptations of their animated classics. They did that thanks to Johnny Depp's star power, which is interesting considering we're all discussing whether or not he'll come back, and if he'll come back to Disney specifically. He said no, but I just think that means the check's going to have to be real big. And I think it will be potentially. Anyway, Robert Downey Jr. likewise deserves credit for building the MCU on his shoulders and the modern cinematic universe. This is why Hollywood has been so keen lately to focus more on franchises, aka brands, animation, and behind-the-camera stars like Spielberg, Cameron, Nolan, and Feige. Kevin Feige, the only producer on that list, excitingly, as it matters less who is on screen these days. Yet here's Tom Cruise proving that the movie star can still compete, that a person can still be a brand, especially when they treat themselves as such. With Cruise building a team of behind-the-camera talent to make sure his movies consistently deliver. Yet he doesn't rely on just one person. He's the only constant, so he remains the star, the selling point. Christopher McQuarrie, I think, really should be a star director up there with the rest of those people. But I think as long as he's just working for Cruise, that's probably not going to happen unless you really know your movie stuff. It's very exciting, though, and perhaps more actors. I mean, we always want to see success and diversity of success in Hollywood. More paths to success means more successful people. And perhaps more actors will take such a vested interest in building their own brands, teaming up with directors, not just in the pursuit of awards gold, but cold hard box office cash. Just as valuable, if not more so. There are certainly a lot of baby movie stars out there trying to prove themselves, desperately, outside of the franchises that made them a household name. And again, what's key here is not getting distracted by trying to win that Oscar. Brands are consistent. They're like McDonald's. Audiences know what they're going to get, but yet when you're trying to win an Oscar, the whole point there is throwing a curveball. So you're thought of differently. That's how you win an Oscar. But I think that can sometimes diminish your box office appeal. Fascinatingly. Oh, it's fascinating because there's the old one for you, one for them adage about how to make movies, but yet look at this lack of movie stars able to get over $300 million because, the franchises certainly aren't doing, any awards fair, although they're trying to. Some of their films do become awards contenders, and we're always very excited about that. All right, so anyway, but that's not what I think drives them. But anyway, Tom Cruise tried to win an Oscar for a while, delivering, by the way, some of his lowest box office numbers. But he was like, forget that, it's not working. So for the past decade, he's instead focused on building himself back up into a movie star, largely with the Mission Impossible franchise. But now, he's finally succeeded with Top Gun Maverick, which again, as we discussed last week, benefits from some other things, including the perfect release date, Memorial Day weekend, which ties in just perfectly with the film. But he's got 2 more Mission Impossible movies on the horizon. It'll be interesting to see if those benefit from this success, if this is a one-off, or if Tom Cruise did it, baby. It'll be interesting also to see if he then goes and joins one of the major established franchises. Johnny Depp and Robert Downey Jr. helped establish these things, but Tom Cruise will be joining them later in the game, like maybe the MCU, as we've been discussing. But so far, the only huge movie star to join an established franchise has been Will Smith. He's the only one who's done it so far with Suicide Squad. And he didn't come back for the sequel, but he said he might, which is why Idris Elba had to play a different character. Anyway, in its second weekend, with no competition at the box office, to be fair, Top Gun Maverick, though, fell just 32%. Other blockbusters have also gotten a gimme in their second weekend, and yet this is the best hold ever for a blockbuster film in its second weekend. That's incredible. And it fell just 20% in its second weekend overseas. Also a shockingly strong hold. Wow, this is like Avatar stuff. We're going to talk about word of mouth in a moment. And it's not going to get as high as Avatar, but I think it's like people are like, maybe I should go see this movie. In just 2 weekends, Top Gun Maverick is already halfway to $1 billion, a little over, which is a franchise-level box office performance, with many of you seeing Top Gun Maverick multiple times in theaters, just like you would a franchise film. How many times have you seen Top Gun Maverick in theaters? Share down below. Again, as we've discussed, Top Gun Maverick is benefiting from having the broadest appeal possible. I think one of the broadest appeal movies ever made, if not the broadest appeal. Conservatives are embracing the film for its military aspects and values they identify with, while liberals are blown away by the craftsmanship, with many calling it a perfect film. That kind of talk is likely, as I said, giving the film its impressive legs, with holdouts saying, okay, I gotta see this thing in theaters. What's everybody talking about? Also, the strong praise of a perfect film, which I'm hearing in Hollywood circles, means that maybe this could help Cruise with his... I don't think it's going to get like Best Actor or Best Director and stuff like that. I mean, I think it might get a Best Picture nomination at the rate it's going. And I think it will at least excel in the craft categories that Warner Brothers has dominated as of late. I'm talking Dune, Mad Max Fury Road. Top Gun Maverick could become that type of movie. And those walked away with Oscars and plenty other nominations in the major categories. Can Top Gun Maverick get to $1 billion? Very interesting. That's our measure of success these days for big movies. But Disney, and Warner Brothers, after this gimme second weekend, are bringing some very strong competition for the rest of the month. We'll see if it hits $1 billion, but it still has Korea to go, for instance, where it hits June 23rd, and that is a big market for Cruise. So it could do it. It could do it. All right, that's very interesting. I think it'll definitely be his highest grossing movie to date. We'll see. All right, we'll keep tabs on it. As for the rest of the top 10, Marvel's Doctor Strange 2 is still holding in second place and should get a touch past $400 million domestic by the end of its theatrical run. Again, it hits Disney Plus, pretty much the 45-day window, as I was the first to tell you, starting June 22nd. It just edged past $900 million globally as well. I mean, sure, it's not $1 billion or anywhere close to Spider-Man No Way Home, but very impressive numbers still, especially considering how the first Doctor Strange 2 film did at the box office. Expect to see a lot more from the mystical corner of the MCU, whose ranks are quickly expanding. Bob's Burgers in its second weekend fell a normal drop of over 60%, hurtling towards Hulu, where it will do, I think, its real business. Then Everything Everywhere All at Once. Remember, it was such a big deal, it crossed 50 million? Well, it just crossed 60 million, and it hits digital platforms for purchase, not rent, but for purchase this Tuesday. David Cronenberg's latest has just barely made it into the top 10, and with poor critic score and an even lower audience score, it's a mere blip on the radar. As for Sony's Morbius stunt, putting the film back into 1,000 theaters to try and capitalize on the social media joke of it's Morbin time, Jared Leto even got in on this, and everyone said that Sony ruined the joke. Sure enough, it fizzled out, with the film not even making it back into the top 10, where the bar was set very low. Over on streaming, starting with Nielsen for the first week of May, Moon Knight ended its run still in third place. Never got higher than that, and for 1 week, remember, it was fourth place. We could see maybe next week it might do well with people binging it, maybe. It did have a very strong finish, but I think it's done okay. I think after that strong finish, a lot of us would like to see the character return and a second season, to be honest. But Ozark continues to deliver over 3 times the viewership of any of the other shows on the list. That's impressive. And a movie finally broke Disney Plus's lock on spots 1 and 2, but it wasn't a new movie. Instead, it was the 1998 film U.S. Marshals, which just hit Netflix. In fact, Netflix, as it kicked off May, got a number of very solid studio movies, many of which made it into the top 10 here. That's interesting. Because a lot of people still are riding the wave over at Netflix instead of churning. And Netflix still manages to some degree to give them a reason to stick around. I'm so glad so many people checked out The Gentleman, by the way. What a great movie. On Netflix, for just last week, remember they're just a week behind, whereas Nielsen is like about a month. On Netflix, A Perfect Pairing in Senior Year, 2 originals switched places in the movie top 10, while the original Top Gun jumped onto the list as well as fans got ready for Top Gun Maverick as it debuted last week. And on streaming, look at Stranger Things 4 Go. Wow, pulling also all previous seasons into the upper top 10 as well. Stranger Things 4 easily defeated Bridgerton's impressive own numbers for the most watched opening weekend of a new Netflix show ever. Bridgerton had 193 million views for the 193 million minutes watched for the first weekend, whereas Stranger Things 4 came in at 287 million minutes. Now, they cheated a bit because, of course, they have super long episodes, and we'll see if other streamers and Netflix embrace the supersized episode strategy. I loved it, but I have seen some people complaining about it. I'm curious how you feel about we're always like, just get us to 60 minutes, but Stranger Things went way beyond 60 minutes. I thought it was fantastic. It's very hard to do, though. Most shows couldn't do that, but for really big shows, this might be the next wave. I would love it. And on iTunes, Sandra Bullock and Tom Cruise, speaking of movie stars, continue to dominate just as they did last week. While Fantastic Beasts 3, also now at no extra cost on HBO Max, is holding steady as a digital purchase. Gerard Butler's latest actioner has found an audience here, bypassing theaters, while Father Stu did not bypass theater and fizzled, but has found an audience also on streaming. On digital. This isn't streaming, on digital. Because you got to purchase, it's at an a la carte price point. This coming week, Top Gun Maverick will finally face off against some competition with Jurassic World Dominion in theaters, and it will take over all the premium screens. So if you've been thinking about seeing Top Gun Maverick, you better see it before Thursday afternoon, because it's going to lose all of those premium screens. But speaking of premium screens, Lightyear is just a week after that, and we all know that Disney is very aggressive with booking not only the premium screens, but all the big screens for its movies. And they, very aggressive with the theaters, as theaters have divulged. But what's Universal going to do to protect their own interests? Are they only going to let Jurassic World be on premium screens for a mere week? That seems bad. And I think that might be one of the reasons that Lightyear has taken so long to put tickets on sale. I think they're probably going to debut tomorrow maybe, or at least early this week, because I've seen the showtimes. Some of the showtimes go up, and they're in small theaters, interestingly, for a couple, but they're grayed out. You can't purchase them yet. But I'm curious to see what screens it's on and which screens Jurassic World Dominion manages to hang on to. We'll talk about it next week on Movie Math. Anyway, on streaming, the MTV Movie and TV Awards are tonight, having lost a lot of their luster, but they're still going. And again, Everything Everywhere All at Once will hit digital on Tuesday, and we'll see how many people watch that. Purchase that. They got to purchase it, as it won't hit streaming for quite some time. On Wednesday, Miss Marvel debuts on Disney+. While on Thursday, Peacock relaunches Queer as Folk based on the original hit show, which Showtime already adapted way back in 2000. On Friday, Apple TV kicks off the 3rd season for All Mankind. Some of you really love that show and really defend it, and you're right, here it is, season 3. And Amazon Prime has the adult animated show Fairfax. And of course, there are other shows going like The Boys and Obi-Wan Kenobi. And on Netflix, on Wednesday, they have the new movie Hustle, starring Adam Sandler, produced by LeBron James, as well as the final season of Peaky Blinders on Friday. So that's this week's Movie Math. What have you been watching? What do you plan to watch? And what do you think of Tom Cruise's astounding success with Top Gun Maverick? Share those thoughts down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.